Traders Game, episode 15. I'm Daya Miller.
Jay Smith.
Chris Vale.
Owyn Smith.
And we got lots to talk about, a lot of lacrosse. We took 2 weeks off. How did everyone feel about their break?
I had to go to the other side of the country for family stuff, but
I've seen you've been on planes. I've seen you've been out and about. What have you been up to?
other than getting on planes and being pissed off about it, nothing really. Sitting at home catching up on sleep and fielding phone calls and offers to do with lacrosse, and I'm just like, it's October. Leave me alone.
Yeah, enjoying your time off. What about you, Chris?
Oh, yeah, it was good, but I played a little golf yesterday, but ready to get back at her today.
You any good at golf?
I can be all right, just playing for fun.
I feel like you would be good at golf, though. Like, I feel like you'd actually be good at golf. Like, I feel like you low-key are. I'm just not saying it.
I don't golf that much.
Oh, okay.
It's too humble.
Too humble. All right, let's get right into this. We got Owyn Smith. Now, let's start. When did you first start lacrosse? When did you first pick up lacrosse stick?
Pretty much like right when I was born. I just remember having one of those little handheld woodies right since I was a baby, and whatever paperweight age is, since then I played up until probably like Bantam age, and then I took like a couple years break and focused on hockey. I was playing on hockey a little bit, and then from there I just carried out playing from midget until this past season, the junior, when I got injured.
Okay, and what was like your, who would you say like influenced you to play lacrosse? Like, who was the first person to be like, yep, this is what we want? Or, because sometimes lacrosse is kind of forced upon you. It's like, this is what we want you to do. Or it kind of runs in, it's in your family. Like, who was the first person to say, no, let's play lacrosse?
It was kind of like it runs in the family thing. Like I grew up, everybody around me just played lacrosse. And then, like when I was younger, I remember it felt kind of like forced on me. I was all agitated all the time. I wanted to play other sports. But as I got older, I kind of just started to love the game a little more and was more appreciative that I was in a lacrosse family and everything. So it was just natural. I just kind of played. Being
that you have some older brothers, do you have some early memories of watching them play and then telling your dad you want to get out there and be like them? Or?
Oh, my whole life. Mostly Lane. Like I looked up to Lane like pretty much since a little kid. He was always on the best teams and scoring the most goals, and like I remember he was signing people's autographs when he was in like midget and getting calls for colleges in like 9th grade and stuff. That was pretty much the epitome of like a lacrosse player to me.
Do you think it was like harder for you to maybe because like, you know, he had this like notoriety and he was like really good at lacrosse, like your brother Lane was good at lacrosse. So do you think it was like easier for you to play lacrosse because you had someone to look up to who was good, or was it like, nah, like I'm just never gonna be as good as him?
I think sometimes a little bit of both. Like sometimes there'd be like the little jealousy side. I'd kind of, I'll never be that good. I'll never play for this team, that team, or I'll kind of always be in his shadow kind of thing. But then at the same time, like I played against him in the backyard my whole life. So it wasn't really like, it was more of a competitive thing. Okay, it just kind of made me want to be better seeing him play for these teams and seeing where it got him and everything.
Is that a decent age gap too, where you're playing a good player that is older too? So he's your age.
What, like 6 years older than me or something. So I'm, 12, 13, and he's playing Rebels, winning Founders Cups, and we're in the backyard going head to head. So there was a skill gap. So it just kind of pushed me to do better.
What would you say was the best advice that he had given you, like during that time when, he was in the Founders Cup and like he was probably like, maybe not at his peak, but, he was like, you could see that he was becoming a star?
Just to play the game. Like that's really all Lane's ever said is just play. Like just don't think about it too much. Don't overanalyze anything. Don't listen to any outside noise. Just have fun. Play the game for wanting to play the game. So like, that's kind of something I've focused on. It's just like playing for the love of it, and that's really it.
How was like your other like situation with like your family? Because you have Lane who's really good at lacrosse. Then you got this guy who's like pushing lacrosse on you, and he's bringing up like back in the 90s, the golden age of lacrosse, talking about his heyday. So like you have all these people, pushing lacrosse on you. When did you feel like you started to be like, no, it's ready to I'm going to make my place in lacrosse?
I don't know. It was hard because like he was my coach my whole life growing up, And I feel like a part of me kind of feels like he wanted to see me in the same positions as Lane, doing good and everything and excelling in the sport. So I feel like when he was my coach, he kind of would push me harder than the other players. And it was like just kind of like this weird, like, I don't know, I felt centered out kind of thing. So there was that kind of like division there. And it wasn't until honestly like my first year junior when I really was like, this is like where I'm going to put myself, is all in this sport. I'm going to do this for me, because he wasn't my coach anymore. He was still involved in the team, but he wasn't the head coach. So it was kind of like I was being pushed by somebody else, and it made a new direction for me in a way.
Do you think that new direction was good? Because, yeah, like sometimes your father could be like sheltering you, or could be kind of pushing you out there when you're not ready. So like there's that yin and yang. Like, do you feel that someone else's guidance from the outside looking in was kind of better, or was it just like it didn't work for you? How was your experience?
I feel like it really helped. It was mostly, like I said, my first year junior, my time with the Rebels. That it was like during the COVID season we had. And I worked a lot on the defensive end with Bear Hill and Nathan McDonald, and the pointers that they gave me just kind of slowed the game down for me and helped me see it differently, and helped me see it in like my way, kind of like they helped me understand it the way I like to learn. So it was like, it wasn't necessarily like better than anything my dad had shown me being my coach, but it was just kind of like a different way of seeing it. So it just clicked a little easier.
Did you think it helped at all? Like your older brother John, right? He was like your teammate your first kind of years of junior. You think that kind of helped out?
Yeah, I'm actually the one that convinced him to drop down and leave the Rebels and come and play Junior C with me. And as soon as we had the chance to be on the same team, it was kind of it was nice. But we only really got to play like 3 games together because I had gotten suspended a lot that season.
And like you said too, it was like those infamous COVID years, like you said. So then it's so kind of your junior career starts, COVID hits, and then his career's kind of ending. So at least you guys did get to end it together.
Or actually, he was on that Rebels team with me. Yeah, now that you mention it, he was on that Rebels team. But like we said, it was COVID season, so we had only really gotten like maybe 2 or 3 weekends of like 3-game lacrosse in. So it wasn't really much of a junior season.
That season was something else because we were holding tryouts in July.
Yeah.
And it was all over the map. Like tryouts in July at an outdoor rink because we couldn't have indoor rinks because of COVID, and practicing on ball hockey rinks that had plastic floors that would get slippery as hell as soon as they got wet. And
did you guys just bring your own nets to the Brantford ball?
Yeah, I had to bring my junior nets. I had to load them up, on top of giving players rides and all their pads. I got a truck full of junior size nets and everything. But coaching Owyn over the years, like Owyn played ball. He tried all these other sports. He circled back. We'd give him the choice. What do you want to play? He'd come back to lacrosse. Owyn was a little smaller. He was bullied as a kid because he was smaller. And as far as putting pressure on him, he was very aggressive. He was the little bulldog out there because he was smaller, and he was always in fights, and even in like tyke novice. Oftentimes I'd literally have to ring him in and pull him back, say no. But apples and oranges, Owyn was a righty D guy. And so when he got to junior, I was like, yeah, I'm glad he had Nathan and Bear pushing him and teaching him other stuff. But sometimes there's times when I'd be like, this is what I'm trying to get through to him. And because it's Dad, he won't listen. So you guys tell him that. And they did, put their own spin on it. Ta-da, it worked. I mean, I'm not taking credit for Bear and Nathan coaching. They're great coaches. They probably taught him a lot more on the D end than I would have had time for. And as far as being Dad coaching, I was a little harder on him. I was a little harder on all my boys because I didn't want the community to think they were only on the team because of me, because I was the coach. They had to earn it. I've never named any of them captain because of that. And if they were a captain on a team I was involved in, it was other coaches that picked them. It wasn't me. So, yeah, I expected a higher standard out of these guys just because I didn't want people to say, oh, he's only favoring them. Oh, no, they had to work harder. That's just how it is in this community.
Yeah, I can I can definitely understand the whole part of like, oh, I don't want to feel like, oh, my son's only on the team because like you're the coach, and like, did you ever feel that as the son, as the child, being like, oh, like I'm only on this team because?
Oh, I had my own teammates tell me that sometimes. You know, I'd have a bad game, and it's just a little locker room. You're only here because your dad's a coach, and like at the end of the day, it's locker room banter. It doesn't really matter. But like being a little, 9 and 10-year-old kid, that's like a pretty crazy thing to say, So like I didn't understand the whole like politics of the sport at the time, so I didn't really know what that meant. So like it just kind of felt like a dig, but that just kind of made me, like I said, like just kind of fueled it even more and more and more.
Yeah, and then even as like being 10 years old, it's like, how do you even combat that? What do you say back to that? Like, do you be like, well, you're just mad because your dad's not the coach?
Honestly,
like that doesn't solve anything. So it's like, what as a 10-year-old, what could you have done?
There's really no comeback for that, really. Like it's just one of those things. Like you just take it and you're just like, whatever, man. Like whatever, just shut up.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was wanting to fight him.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the other part, right? Like you just kind of store that in, and then when practice comes around, you're kind of hoping for a scrimmage so you can take a whack at that guy, right? So that's just how it is, though.
Do you think having brothers that played offense kind of steered you more towards the D-door?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, not necessarily, but I feel like it just made me better at defense because I always had to play against them, and then being offensive, strong players, I had to be good at defense if I want to even have a chance at winning in the backyard. So I feel like just having to be good at defense and then coaches seeing that I'm good at defense, I just kind of got stuck there, but I like it.
Did you ever have any time where like someone said to you, oh, you're only on the team because of your dad, and you'd be just like, I didn't even want to be on this team? Like
sometimes, yeah, there was a year
like
where
I want a year off from my dad. Like
the year before I had taken a couple years off, like I mentioned, I didn't want to play that year. But I had just decided, my brothers convinced me, like, just play this year, see if you still feel the same kind of thing. And so I said, whatever, like, I'll play. Made the team, played. I just didn't want to be there. I just wanted to go do my own thing. I wanted to play basketball, football, hockey.
Yeah, because I remember there was a time when, this was during hockey, not lacrosse. I was, like, on the good team, but then I had to move down to the not so good team because at the time my stepdad was the coach of that. And it just made sense. It's like, well, you're gonna get a ride with him. He's coaching the team.
Why not play?
Yeah, and it's gonna be fun, and it was fun. And then, but the people I met on that team, like I'm still friends with today, and it was so much fun. So it leads me to like my next question, is like, did you ever in any of the time playing lacrosse feel like you wanted to like leave it because it didn't become fun anymore?
Yeah, there was like just that same season I mentioned. It just felt like I was there for other people at that point because my brothers had convinced me, and my dad's coaching another year. So I just felt like I'm kind of more so doing it for them rather than for me. And it just kind of like kept putting into the whole I don't want to be here mindset. And I just ended up taking the couple of years off anyways. So I don't know, it just kind of was one of those things.
And during that time, was there like anyone in the dressing room, like maybe your teammates, that you could look around and be like, yeah, we're kind of all in the same boat? Because I know for myself, I could be in the dressing room and look around at my friends, and I could be like, yeah, like, like, oh, my at the time, my real dad wasn't there, or maybe like, oh, there's a reason that some players just don't get along with the people in the dressing room, or start shifting away from the game because it doesn't become fun. So did you have anyone in the dressing room to kind of like be like, man, this isn't fun anymore?
Not in those years, but in the later years after I had come back, it was like my first and second year midget. I had played down a couple levels to just play with my friends. I was coming back to the game. I was knocking the rust off, so I just wanted to have fun. Played with my friends on a couple of 2 or 3 teams or whatever. And I could just see in that room, like, those guys were kind of just there for something to do. Like, nobody really wanted to come out to practice and get better, and like nobody wanted to try in the games. Nobody cared if we won or lost. So it was just kind of, it just creates a weird atmosphere, and it's a shaky environment kind of, because some days it's good, everybody's having fun, we're out there trying hard, and then some days everybody's just kind of drag-assing and jogging and smug look, like just doesn't want to be there, like it's just not fun.
what would you say is needed in the minor system to make that like, like let's say if that was a 2-team or a 3-team as opposed to being on the 1 team or something, what do you think can make that 2-team or 3-team more fun so that those players are more wanting to get out there and they want to like try hard and actually, put their best foot forward?
Honestly, I feel like just more involvement from the organization, really, because I know from my experience playing down into lower levels, we'd barely even have a coaching staff. Like it'd be a parent that got their trainer's card just so they could be on the bench, and that's our representative. We don't have a coach. We're running the practices. So like that just, like I said, keeps adding into that negative atmosphere of like we don't even want to be here. So like maybe just like more involvement from the organization and community as a whole, and getting some faces for these teams, the people that can actually teach these kids something, make them want to show up.
I remember the one year Owyn played, and Daryl Henhock was his coach. And Daryl's notorious for coaching 2 and 3, sometimes 4 teams, because these teams don't have coaches. And I was always like, does the man ever sleep? Because he's got a full-time job, he's got a family to raise, plus he's coaching 2 and 3 and 4 teams. And I'm just like,
and now his sons do it too, right?
Yeah. And I was just like, how do you even do that? But yeah, I commend Daryl, because he's been coaching probably longer than I ever have, and he still is. And yeah, now Bo's doing it, and got his other boys are on the bench now too, helping out.
Mitch is a ref, and
yeah, Mitchie's a pretty high caliber.
One of the best refs, honestly.
Did
I don't know about that. No, Mitchie's cool. I like picking on him, but he's a cool guy. Yeah, he just reffed at Worlds, did he not?
Yeah.
Really, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Shout out Mitchie.
Yep, Mitchie.
But yeah, it's so important that like, how like they say these 2 teams and 3 teams, they don't have coaches that are like dedicated, or they don't have coaches who like show up and want to support the team. And it all leads back to the fact that like sometimes like let's say go back to when you're in the minor system, that means that team didn't have a leader. Yeah. Didn't have someone to look up to. And that's like the community's fault. That's like the fathers that are out there right now that are watching the show. Like, why aren't you stepping up for these kids? So like to all the fathers out there like listening, this is the problems that are happening.
Well, I think it's Six Nations minor lacrosse. I noticed it a lot, but I think it's across the board with any minor system that everybody wants to coach the top team. Everybody wants to coach the 1 team. People that don't get the 1 team will begrudgingly take the 2 team. But then like the 3 and 4 team, if there is 3 and 4 teams, I've seen executives. And I've been an executive where we're asking dads as they're bringing their kids in to take them to the dressing room, hey, you want to coach this year? Literally. And like Owyn said, parents are going to get their first aid and CPR so that the team has a trainer so they can play, because a team doesn't necessarily need a coach to play. They just need a trainer. So oftentimes, like the one year Owyn had somebody's mom stepped up.
It was,
Minnie Green coached. Minnie Green coached the team, and like kudos to Minnie, and kudos to a woman in our community and other women in our community that step up. But what does it take? You're right. Like we need more coaching staff. I had a tough time going back and coaching him because I had coached at midget level and junior level, and then going back and coaching Owyn, I had to. It took me really quick. I had to remember you have to go back and teach. Because Owyn was peewee, I think, and you have to go back and teach it. You can't just walk in a dressing room and say, here's the warm-up, boom, and bark out the drills and go. Because when the players get older, you can do that. I have to go back and teach, and I had to reel in the swear words, and didn't stop me. I still got kicked out a lot. So.
A lot.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Minnie. She was actually my coach too.
Yeah.
I remember the very first 4 team. I think it was the very first 4 team. There was a 1 year where there was just so many players, and it was either you can go on the 2 team or the 3 and 4 team. And then Brandon Stiers got us a sponsor. His dad, Kurt, sponsored the team, and we were like the mini Arrows that year, and it was the funnest thing. And I still see those guys out, and like shout out to everyone who was on that 4 team, because it was just a great year. And there were people who came down from the 1 team, and we're just like, no, we're going to play for them. We did get like buckets and gloves and all that stuff, so there was an incentive.
Like a fun thing. Then.
Yeah, it was super fun, but like. the year was just so amazing. And I remember going to provincials. I think we beat the 2 teams. So it was just like, it was one of those things like, yeah, man, we're the 4 team. And we just didn't care. It was one of the best years in lacrosse.
I remember
ever.
hearing about that. Did my oldest son Brody play on that team?
Yep, I'm pretty sure he was there too. Yep.
Yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah,
we had the Cascades and all that. Yeah,
but yeah, shout out to Minnie because she stepped up. She coached that team. I remember that.
Yep.
And then her younger son, it's Owen's age now. They didn't have a coach, and so that's why she stepped up and coached again. So
she went hardcore that year too.
Oh yeah,
Minnie is hardcore.
She was ready to fly off the bench for us. Like I shout out to Minnie too. Like that was an awesome year.
I remember hearing dads in the crowd, and look, this team got coached by a woman, and I was like,
yeah, go say that to her, and go say that to her.
Go test her.
Yeah. She's got some words for you.
Oh yeah.
Even after the game, like I would wait for her to, because she'd go in the dressing room, say what she had to say, and I'd be like, I'm gonna wait before I even hang around the dressing room because I don't want to feel that wrath if they lost.
She was cool. She was always the coolest. Like we would go over to the house, like at Brandon's house, and they were living on Fifth Line at the time. Have pizza parties. We put on buckets and gloves, start scrapping, different things like that. You know, just have fun being kids.
Owen had that at home, buckets and gloves with John constantly.
Did you win or him?
Oh, me. Oh, well, a couple times he got me. I'm not gonna lie. A couple times he got me, but I'll just put that in the he's older than me basket.
Now you and Lane.
Me and Lane have actually only ever fought like once, and he whooped me bad. Bad.
So that's why it was just the one time?
Just the one time. I learned my lesson. I'm not ever trying again.
Like you said, Brandon Steyer's is donating money back to pay for Six Nations registrations for kids.
Yes.
Yeah, shout out to Brandon Steyer's
Oh,
again.
my
Like,
God.
man, like there's just so many people actually doing great things in this community. It's just we
There is.
need more of it. That's all.
Brando had his annual birthday bash, and it was all over social media. Money raised is going to Six Nations minor lacrosse athletes. Don't know what the tally is. I know he'll announce it in the coming days because he's like that. And was it about maybe a month ago? My son Brody he's got a little hunting group. They start selling hoodies. Money raised is going. I don't know what he's decided on yet. I know one of the options was helping coaches who wanted to get certified. That was one option. Is he would be willing to help them pay for their certification. Another was like even water bottles, clipboards, all giving coaches incentives. I don't know what money he's raised. That's not my business. That's his. But so another community member pitching in and trying to help. But I know there was the one episode we filmed, and there was a minor lacrosse AGM that night. I didn't go. I don't know whether they're bringing the 3 and 4 teams back. I don't know what the outcome was. You heard anything at the store?
No, nothing really.
So if they have decided to put the 3 and 4 teams back, and I'm sure they will, because with this incentive from Brando helping cover registrations, I'm sure they will get an influx of players now. They're going to need it. I remember years ago, I think when Owen might have been paperweight. It might even been before that. Kurt Steyers had covered any kid that wanted to play paperweight. He covered their registration and their equipment. And I think that year they had like almost 200 kids sign up for paperweight.
I think I remember that. I think I just remember like showing up the registration. Everybody was getting like free kidney pads and everything. And I was like, what, where are you getting all this stuff?
and like you said, technically all those kids that did go to Hamilton or Simcoe and stuff, their rates they still have to come back here because it was just like a year release.
Yeah, 1 year
time.
release,
So they're still it's not like they're going to lose those kids. Maybe 1 or 2 will try to stay. But
my only concern with this, because there's going to be an influx of players now and an influx of coaches, which is a good thing. It's all good. Floor time.
Oh, yep, floor time.
We're going to have to go back to booking Hagersville for minor. If Caledonia takes one ice pad out, they're going to have to book that. I remember we had to book floor time at Lions Park for practices and tryouts. We've had to book. We've notoriously booking the Gretzky Center for the big tournament that they have every May. So I mean, I can see that happening. Floor time is going to be an issue, and it's going to go across the board. Minor lacrosse will need more floor time. Juniors will need more floor time. Senior teams will need more floor time. Like last episode, we had 2 women from the Haudenosaunee national team here. Their big concern is floor time too, because the women's team, the attack is almost an afterthought when it comes to floor time.
Because I think they were doing like Friday nights in Hagersville, like 8, 10 o'clock or something.
And you're not going to get, I don't care whether you're a women's team, a men's team, a kids team, a junior team, you're not going to get many out for a practice on a Friday night at 8 o'clock, especially when the Rebels are playing Friday night home games. So something's got to give.
I think Caledonia should just open up like at least one, anyways. Like I don't know like how it works over there. Like they don't have a lacrosse team. I know that, right?
No, they have. I'm not sure if it's still owned by Six Nations residents, but wasn't the Corvairs owned by Six Nations residents here?
It still is, yeah.
Maybe they should put a little influence on them to put at least one rink back to being concrete, so we can have floor time.
I think they even ran ball hockey out of there too in the summertime.
I mean, not knocking ball hockey, but
ball hockey's pretty dope, man.
I know.
I'm a co-ed ball hockey champ, so I'm not gonna knock it either.
Yeah. We can't call down ball hockey.
I played ball hockey years ago when I was. We had a work team, and I worked for an agency down here who promotes peace, love, and harmony. And I got to tell you, that's where we took all our aggressions out, was on them other teams.
Floor hockey and dodgeball, my 2 favorite things in gym. And then when I was 14, I was a primary prevention assistant worker for social services, and we had all these kids would come in, right, social services, but we were just like helping out. We were like kids helping other kids, and we would play dodgeball and with them, and it'd be pretty intense. But a lot of the older kids, like the primary prevention assistant workers, were pretty intense at it. It was like me, Wayne, Warren, like Ethan Thomas was there. There was like a whole bunch of people, like a lot of lacrosse players.
So you guys were just trying to hurt each other.
We were trying to hurt each other, but then we would get yelled at and say that no, you can't do that in front of the kids because the kids will want to hurt each other. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. We're here to help the youth. Yeah.
I'll have to get after that guy over there in the backyard because he'd be trying to kill John. Like, Owyn, you can only hit him like waist down. Don't be trying to hit him in the head.
Waist down.
He's starting it though.
Just sacks him in it.
He's starting it.
Come across instead of a stick check, he would purposely. John could be dangling, pull his stick here, and Owen's cracking him in the knee on this side. Oops, went for the stick. No, you didn't.
All right, let's get back into these questions. You're always getting me off all my
Wasn't
questions.
me. Hey, I didn't even see your question.
Always. All right. So, I want to know about a standout moment, like a tournament, something that was a standout in your career so far. What would you say was the highlight of your lacrosse career so far?
One of the first moments that comes to mind is just like, I remember a couple of years ago when I was playing for the Stealth, before I convinced my brother John to drop down, he was still playing for the Rebels. And we had a game against Barrie here at home at the ILA, and it was like maybe 15 seconds left. It was tied at like 9, and Barrie had a possession call, and they came down. I think they might have even been a man up, and ran their set, whatever they did, threw a wild shot, went way off the glass. I remember Jack Henhock picked it up, and I just took off and caught a breakaway pass, came down literally as the buzzer went, scored game winner. And I just remember I looked up, and there's like my dad, John, there's my grandma over there. It was just a big moment for me, because like not only did like I just win it for the team, but like everybody's there to see it. The whole arena's going crazy. Like it was just one of those things that like you've wanted since you were a little kid. So like that was a pretty standout moment to me.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, especially with your family there to witness it and everything.
It was pretty cool.
The whole community, actually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did the whole jumping into the glass and pulling his jersey and
It was nice. I had to let him know, right?
in the
Like,
crowd and blowing kisses.
Look at the scoreboard. Look at the score.
I like to run my mouth a little bit.
How was it when you went over to Wilmont? How was that transition?
Oh, it was great. That was
your questions here. Come on here.
No, Wilmont. We're actually transitioning right now.
That season holds a lot of big moments for me too. Like I went into a new environment, and like we all just kind of rallied together and turned into this like championship caliber team, right? So that's a pretty special moment. But the transition into Wilmont was actually pretty weird how it played out. So like I was with the Stealth the season prior to actually signing with Wilmont, and I had gotten a couple of suspensions, and they warned me, like the management warned me and said, like, you're one more suspension away from being let go because we don't want this on the team. Like, you're one of our leaders, you're supposed to be setting an example. You're not. And I got another suspension, and after the game they had assured me, like, you know, like it was a misunderstanding why you got suspended, like you're good, you're not cut. Because that was the first thing I was worried about, like, oh shit, did I just get cut? And they had let me like go under the impression that I'm serving my suspension and that I'm allowed to come back in 7 games. I had been practicing with the team, I'm at every game, and come my return game, I go to pay my fine and go out for warm-ups, and they break the news to me that I had been cut since like a month prior. And so like that was like the first time I had experienced something like that in lacrosse world. So that was like a shocking situation. So I just kind of packed up my things and just went home. And immediately me and my dad just kind of started conspiring, like how do I get somewhere else? Like how do I go and keep playing, really? So I sent an email through to Brantford, and like my dad had gotten into contact with, I don't know who we got into contact to, but got word that Wilmont wanted me somehow. I
had spoke with their GM, Ryan Fitton. Great guy, but there was a catch, because when Owyn got that 7-game suspension, he was going to every practice, he was going to warm-ups, he was going to the games, because the Stealth had cut him, even though they assured him he wasn't getting cut. They never put him on any game sheet as suspended. So he sat those 7 games for nothing. They was never on a game sheet as suspended. So for any other team to take a gamble on him, he would have had to sit out 7 games still. And the kicker was, I remember Brantford was like, yeah, no, because they knew he still had to sit out 7 games. 7 games in a junior season is half the season.
And it was almost playoffs. It was already halfway through the season.
Yeah, so go ahead with Wilmont.
So then it was like, I think not even like a day after hearing that they were interested, I emailed Brantford's GM, and because of the rights situation or whatever rules there are, I had to get cleared through Brantford first because they're the next closest team or whatever. And they emailed me back right away, just said, yeah, I can get out of here. And so like I went and met with Ryan Fitton, the GM, and he gave me a tour of their home arena and their dressing room and their equipment room. And right away I was like, yeah, I'm interested. That was like nothing I've never seen before. They got stationary bikes and saunas and like cryogenic, like weird puffed up machines that go on your legs, and ice baths, and like 3 sets of uniforms. Like it was just
slushy machine in the dressing room.
Pre-workout
pretty much
machine.
A junior C team that's getting treated like professionals.
Pretty
right?
much. Yeah. I walked in to what I thought was a professional like establishment.
Yeah.
And they treated us like professionals.
Big screen TV in the dressing room.
Oh yeah.
What's the population of Wilmont?
14.
Yeah, there's like,
they mostly get like those Kitchener area guys, like Kitchener.
Wilmont,
it was
literally is an intersection, and it's on one side of the intersection. There's Wilmont. Was it Wilmont Township?
Yeah.
But the little community of Wilmont literally is a
it's a community center.
Is a community center, because on the other side of the road is New Hamburg.
Because I think they have tried for like a minor team, but then they'd be taking from Kitchener. Right?
Yeah. So they are pretty close to Kitchener, but I mean, that's where they pull a lot of their minor guys from, is Kitchener, because Kitchener doesn't have a C team; they got a B team. Some guys end up there from Cambridge too, but now Cambridge has a B team. So
we had a whole mix of guys from everywhere that season. I played.
Yeah, Fitton emailed me and called me or texted me. I can't remember, but he's like, "Bring Owyn out to the arena at this time on this day." So I said, "Okay." So we got him out there, took the tour. I kind of took the tour with him, and then he's like, "I want to have a chat with him." Okay. So we left Owyn and Ryan Fitton to their devices, and I still just don't know to this day exactly what was said. But they did take a gamble on him. Signed him knowing he had 7 games to still serve, because the Stealth had screwed him over and never served those 7 games. And then Owyn didn't even get to come back until, what was it, game 5 or something?
It was third round, I think. I didn't get to come back till.
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah, it was. I think almost. I'm pretty sure it was conference finals against Orangeville.
It was against Orangeville, yeah.
Because they beat us, and that's kind of like what started the whole Wilmont Orangeville thing for the next season that we played.
Yeah, because Orangeville Junior C team was relatively new. They hadn't had a C team, if ever, but they didn't have one for a long time, and then they had one that year.
And whooped us.
Well, a lot of the Junior C guys that used to try out for Orangeville went to Caledon because Caledon had a Junior C team. Orangeville didn't. Mm-hmm. And Caledon's been folded up for a few years now.
I think it was kind of like how that Stealth was supposed to start that 2020. I think Orangeville was like similar, but then because of COVID, then they didn't actually have a season till that 2022, 2023. And but it's like you said, a lot of in Orangeville is a lot of plays too, with a lot of kids, and I think their intermediate teams are good. And then I think I seen their intermediate team did still win a championship even one of these past years while having Junior C.
They got a lot of good players.
That's the nature of the beast. That's the politics of the game, though. Like there was really no reason why Stealth management couldn't put him on a game sheet. Instead, he basically missed 14 games that season when he only had to sit 7. Well, he had other suspensions before that, but
technically that season I got 4 games of play in.
That season, those 14 games, that could have been a 7-game suspension like it was originally doled out. It doesn't take much to write a player's name and a number in the suspension column and put 1 of 7, 2 of 7, etc. It doesn't take that long. It's not that hard to do. Why it wasn't done, I don't know. Again, do I say did they do it because they didn't like him? Did they do it because they didn't like me? Was it just an administration error? 7 games straight?
Do you want to know why it wasn't done? It was because that season before every game, when they would get the game sheet, they would pass it around the dressing room, and it would be up to the players that are suited to write their name and number. And so I'm not suited, so I'm not touching the game sheet. So I guess I didn't put myself down.
So, but then you're kind of taking accountability for that then.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess that was the whole environment of the room. I guess I should have.
Yeah, he's not gonna know.
That's not on any player to put themselves.
But then not to point fingers. That just kind of says something about the organization of the room.
Oh, it was.
It's like, hey, why didn't anyone just let him know that you have to put this down, or like.
It was kind of like that season. Like they were still figuring things out. I'll give them that. Mm-hmm. I'll give them that benefit, but. At the end of the day, the people that were involved with that team had been involved with the lacrosse world for years, right? So they should have been a little more on top of their game.
Decades. I emailed right away and said, why wasn't his suspension filled out on the game sheet? I still ain't got a reply. It's been, 4 years, 5 years?
I messaged the manager a couple days later just because I was a little curious as to what transpired, what made the decision from telling me I'm good. I'm just going to serve my suspension. They're not going to cut me to I'm cut without telling me. I never got an answer. So
the best part is, though, there was coaches on that team that year that were fighting hard to keep Owyn, and management didn't want him. Coaches wanted him. Management didn't want him.
Yeah, half the bench staff actually didn't know I was cut. When I came in the room after finding out in the lobby of the arena that I was cut on my return game, I went back in the room to take all my warm-up gear off, and I remember Bo Henhock and our trainer, Ryan McNeil, asked me, hey, what are you doing? I was like, I'm cut. I'm not on the team anymore. I haven't been on the team technically for a month. I'm getting out of here. I'm going home. And they were literally just blank faces. They had no clue. So
I think Jason Henhock, I don't think he didn't know either.
Jason was mad.
And Jason was advocating hard to keep Owyn because he liked his style of play, liked his aggression. And I mean, Jason's very, very, very knowledgeable of the game. He still plays. He was in the show. He knows what's up. His dad Kelly played. Well, I don't even know how old Kelly is, but he's probably been involved in lacrosse for 50 years or more. So Owyn's right. That whole organization, there's a lot of lacrosse knowledge there. Why that transpired the way it did, I'm not pointing fingers. I don't know, but somebody dropped the ball.
Well, I guess after this episode, we'll get some feedback and maybe we'll hear. I don't know.
Maybe, hopefully. We can check
Yeah.
the comments, I guess.
Well, I can check my email again while we're on air and show you that I still ain't got an answer. The team's still functioning. From what I've seen, they're going through a bit of a rebuild because they lost players to the Six Nations Fire, the Junior B team that plays in FNLA. But I mean, it's good. There's still a lot of lacrosse. Owyn's now he done junior. You can touch on why you're done. and
Well,
what
no,
happened.
we're not senior yet.
You're jumping ahead there.
No, I don't even have the paper. I don't know where
So-
we're at on there. So
He originally said that like he didn't know what the conversation was between you and Wilmont. He like left you guys amongst you said
Yeah,
your
okay.
devices.
I left them to their devices.
Yeah.
Ryan,
I
Ryan,
did
It's
wanna
super
touch
old
on
of you
that,
to say
yeah.
that. Old,
Ryan-
left
Ryan
him to the
Fitton-
devices.
Ryan Fitton said, I got to have a talk with this guy. I left the dressing room. I left them to their devices. I don't know what was said. Don't know.
All right. Okay. So how did that conversation go?
So he just took me from like we had finished the tour of the room and everything, and so when he had told my dad he's going to talk to me, we went from dressing room to the equipment room, and he kind of took me into the little management office there, and we just sat down, and he just told me like, we want you here because you can play lacrosse, not because you can slash people or run your mouth or hit people or fight people. Like, we want you here because you can run fast, you can pass the ball, you can play defense. Like, that's what we want, and that's what you're going to do here. Because then he basically just laid out his plan in terms of like he's gonna sign me now before the deadline and put me on the game sheets for the playoffs, and then hopefully if they make it that far, I could come back for playoffs, still play lacrosse, which they made it to second or third round or whatever it is, and we're playing against Orangeville, and I got to come back for games 2 and 3, I think, but we ultimately lost and season was over. But I found a new place to call home, I guess. So
And then now going forward, where are you going to be this coming season?
I'm not really too sure yet, like, because I played the 2022-2023 season, I think it would be, in Wilmont. We conference finals champs and made a run to the Meredith. I ended up blowing my knee out. So I've been away for the game for a year and some change now, and I don't know. I'm not sure if I want to just play Senior C here at home and just kind of knock the rust off. I don't know if I want to maybe try to get into the Can-Am, play up a little bit. I don't know if I want to venture out and play C elsewhere and see what else is available to me. Or I also have offers. Jeff Snyder, the coach of Wilmont Wild, he's also works with Ryan Fitton with the Chaos, the Senior C team, and he's made it very clear that he wants me out there with them. So there's a few options, and I don't know. I really don't know where I want to play, but I guess I got lots of time to figure it out until next box season. So
here's what's funny. Way back when the Junior C team here was the Junior C Warriors, and the one year I was GM and Bear Hill and Nick Sky were the coaches, and we made it to the final, to the Ontario finals against Peterborough. But that year, our biggest rivals was Wilmont, like to the point where I remember we beat Wilmont in the playoffs in their barn. And I don't know if you've ever been to a game in Wilmont. Their fans are rabid. And we beat Wilmont, and some of their fans tried to come run on the floor.
I honestly don't know where Wilmont is. That's why I asked. Like, how
We'll
big
get
is the
you there.
population?
We'll get you there. But the fans out there, they're something else. And we had a big rivalry with Wilmont when I was with the Warriors, to the point where as soon as we saw, like back then it was Wayne Paddock who was in charge of Wilmont, and he was also a referee. So sometimes we had a hate on for him already because he was a referee. But after, we got to know each other, Wayne and I were pretty cool, friendly rivalry. Wilmont was still the biggest rivals of our Junior C team here. And by the look and sound of it, that still transpired between the Stealth and the Wild, that they're still pretty big rivals. But Owyn mentioned the Chaos and Senior C, the Wilmont Chaos. I know for field they're the Milton Chaos. Become pretty big rivals with the Six Nations Tomahawks now. When I had the team in 2023, and the whole incident with crazy Phil Henry hitting that guy, and then the whole shenanigans that happened with that. So now here's myself and Jeff Snyder, who coaches the Wilmot Wild, the Wilmot Chaos, the Milton Chaos, him and Albert Rahanic. So at best, we'll nod, smile, maybe a limp handshake when we see each other.
Limp handshake.
But are they rivals? In a friendly way, I will say yes, they are my rivals. I have no issues talking to them when I see them. I don't know how they feel about me and Rick. Quite frankly, I don't care. But when that happened in Senior C, the first thing came to my mind is I hope that they do not take this out on Owyn, because Owyn was playing for them. And now, like we were at field lacrosse yesterday for watching the senior men's, and they're there with the Chaos, and Owyn's chatting them up. I have no issues with it. If Owyn wants to go there, I have no issues with it. They have built a really strong team bonding mentality with that group. There's a lot of guys that played junior for them who now play senior for them, who play field for them and everything. They're a good solid core group of guys. Personally, I'd like to see him go get a little higher than C ball, but that's up to him.
And what do you think is stopping you from going up to like Senior B? Like, do you truly believe C is your level, that you can't go above there, or like do you just not want to go to the B level?
Personally, I believe that if I really work for it, I could play at any level I want to. That's just how I feel. I'm just that confident in my own play. But it's always just been like a choice thing for me. Like, do I want to just have fun with the game, or do I want to turn this into something serious? And it's mostly always just been kind of like, I want to have fun. Like, I just want to go play, you know? But as I'm getting older and I'm starting to love the game a little more, and I've dealt with time away from the game now, so like I want it back even more. So I feel like I'm going to start taking it a little more serious. Maybe try and play at higher levels, but I guess we'll just see.
I think the biggest thing right now, though, is he's got to rehab his knee. He just had surgery in August. Actually, I got a text from him while I was at the President's Cup. He was telling me he just got his knee operated on. So I was like, yeah, that's still a long road ahead. But first and foremost, you got to get that knee rehabbed before he can play anywhere.
So how long could you potentially be out? Like, how long is this going to take, do you think?
Well, the doctors say that recovery after surgery is like 6 to 8 months with minimum 8 weeks of rehab. But personally, the way that it feels and the way that I know my body is healing right now, I think I could be back anywhere from 5 to 7. Cut it by at least 2 months, maybe.
8 months puts you at the tail end of tryouts for a lot of senior teams.
That is true, yeah. But I mean, like, just the way that I'm recovering and the way that it's like the way that physio is going so far and the progress I'm making and everything, and I feel like I could come back relatively sooner than the doctors say and come back pretty strong.
Dude even stole my bike there last weekend.
Stole your bike?
Yeah.
Like you said too, if it's like, I'm sure if you're telling a team, hey, I'm interested, but I'm still just not cleared yet, I'm sure they'll kind of give you some grace period. And
yeah, I feel like
pitch it.
I feel like it was like, it's pretty known, honestly. Like, there's been so many people that have heard about me being injured in a way just from Jeff alone. So I guess he's been putting word out, like, I got a player on injured reserve. He's going to come back next year. Like, I've had treasurers and commissioners say, oh, like, you're Owyn, I heard you from Jeff. And so I feel like it's known at least some places in the lacrosse world that I am injured and I am out. So, you know, probably some teams are probably keeping their distance right now, but for the most part, the ones that are interested are interested.
What would you say would be like the the thing that you're looking for the most, like, you know, are you looking for a team that you want to get along with? Are you looking for a coach that you want to get along with? Are you looking for a facility that you like? Are you looking for a community that you like? What is it that you're looking for in a team?
I feel like for right now, I mostly just look for somewhere I can just be myself, somewhere where I can just have the freedom to kind of play my style. Like, obviously I know I got to play into a system depending on who's coaching, and there's certain plays I got to know and everything that comes into playing the game. But there was like a certain level of freedom coming from Wilmont that I had there that I don't really want to lose. So like I knew our plays, I knew our calls, I knew where to be and how to play their style. But before every game, I just remember Jeff would tell me, just play your game. Like, I don't need you to do this, do that. Just play your game, make the right call. And I feel like it was just like a level of trust almost. So I feel like that's kind of more so what I'm looking for, a trust from my organization.
This next part of the show is sponsored by the Grand River Exotics, located at 1109 Brant County, Highway 54. Go check them out. They love supporting the show, and we're going to be talking about everyone's top fives. We're going to go top fives, all right? We got lists. So before we get going, before we get into the top five, though, I want to know which league in Canada is the best and has the largest pool of upcoming talent. And that's because, like, OLA, you got Can-Am, you got, you know, people on BC doing their thing. So, like, you know, which league within Canada right now has the most upcoming talent?
But you'd probably have to say, like, oh, like Can-Am is tough. It's just really one team, right? So you can't really say them as much. But you got OLA and obviously still, like, the BC leagues, right? Like British Columbia leagues, I say, would be second.
But, like, is OLA the epitome? Is
well,
it like
it's all the minor teams, right? So
Oh,
that's gonna have
so.
you're gonna have your minor teams, your junior team, your senior team. So it's gonna
just population size.
Yeah,
OLA
Ontario.
has the advantage.
Yeah, it's
because
Ontario.
We have the biggest population of lacrosse, registered lacrosse players.
Yeah.
The OLA is the biggest. If you break it down to voting numbers, when you come to Lacrosse Canada meetings, like each province has X amount of votes based on membership numbers. OLA has the most because they have the biggest population.
So the OLA is the biggest in Canada. So if the OLA were to go against the biggest organization with in the States, who would it be? Who is the leading organization in the States for lacrosse right now?
It's just like the States is not really like that. It's just kind of like you got your U.S. lacrosse. Like if you want to try out, you pay like your money, get your little insurance form, you get the magazine once a month. But it's just kind of like U.S. lacrosse, like looks over everything. But it's just kind of like you play your high school or kind of those club circuits. But it's not really under like it's kind of like AAU, but it's just not under like a thing. And then there is like those,
kinda.
if you want to say box, like those North American leagues,
Yeah,
right?
they have some state leagues.
Yeah.
But their numbers, like Zone 9 in the OLA, that's what Six Nations Minor Lacrosse is part of, is Zone 9. There is probably more teams in Zone 9 in just in that little zone, which covers like Fort Erie, Niagara Lake, Grimsby, Six Nations, St. Catharines, Burlington, Hamilton. There's probably more teams in that zone than probably all of the state of New York as far as box goes. Well, maybe that's a bad comparison because the state of New York does have the NAMLA League. They have all the reserve teams there. But I mean, we'll say Ohio. There's probably more teams in Zone 9 OLA than there is in the whole state of Ohio. So
like like you said, like those. I think it's like a resolute. It's more or less like players. They start their own league or their own team, right? Their travel teams. You pay a registration, and then that's kind of like those coaches' income, right? It's kind of growing the game, but also making money in a business.
That's a good question, though. How many players are registered in the OLA compared to how many players or how many people are registered with U.S. Lacrosse? I honestly think the province of Ontario probably has more people registered than the whole U.S. Lacrosse organization.
Because 100%, because you can still play.
Maybe not, but still.
Well, like you said, because it's like you can play high school lacrosse your whole time and you don't have to register. Or there's certain things you can play and you don't got to register for U.S. Lacrosse. So where OLA, you got to actually register, right?
Like we've been to tournaments over in the U.S. where we just paid an entry fee and went. And then you get some who are sponsored by whomever and right in the documents, because not only would they just send document for entry fee or whatever for the team, it started getting into each player had to fill out paperwork and, like you said, become a member of U.S. Lacrosse, and that you'd get the magazine, you'd get this. There was some perks, but the biggest thing was you were covered by their insurance.
Yeah, it's just insurance, really. Yeah.
So of the talent pool versus, let's say Canada, if OLA is the biggest in Canada and then has the most talent, who are they even competing in the States? Like, is there a state that is like really killing it right now?
New York.
So it's just New York.
Well, it's always like New York and Maryland, and like they're always been those top two hotbeds, right? And then,
Pennsylvania's starting.
Yeah, and then you got Pennsylvania. There's like New England, Connecticut, Massachusetts, but the growth is getting huge. Like there's definitely like those guys in Texas, and you'll see more. But even like I always remember back in the day. It's kind of we had a couple of D1 kids. Dan McDermott, he was really good at one point, and we're saying, okay, he's putting up 50 points in Long Island. He's playing D1 guys all the time, and my dad's like, that kid in Texas scores 50 goals and commits to Virginia, but how good is he? Because who's he playing versus?
Yeah,
and not even a knock. So Zed Williams, well, obviously he's very good, and we know that. But he's the leading goal scorer in New York State or points or whatever. But he was in a smaller league because like in New York, it's. Like your population of schools, so you could be like Manhasset, Garden City. They were technically only in like the lower divisions because they have a smaller population of males in like those high schools.
Well, it's like here, like OFSA, McKinnon Park in Caledonia is a powerhouse when it comes to lacrosse. They've won how many OFSA gold medals, but they're only playing single and double A because of the size of the school and the population of the school. And you look at Assumption College in Brantford. Won triple and quad A OFSA, but they're in a bigger pool because of the bigger population of the school. Now, there was a lot of players that won that triple and quad A OFSA in Brantford at Assumption a few years back, and some of them were like, well, now I want to win OFSA again, so I'll transfer to McKinnon Park. But then they couldn't play because you're only transferring to play a sport. You got to sit a year basically, and that's OFSA rules. That team of McKinnon Park in Caledonia could probably beat most triple and quad A teams in Ontario in OFSA, but because of their school population size, they won't play them because they're smaller.
Now for like box, obviously New York, they'd probably be your best box place. Like when you look at Team USA, right? You had Blaze Reardon, Joel White, Joe Rosateris, Connor Fields, right? But then some of those guys too. You grew up in Buffalo, they're coming over playing 40 year East St. Catharines, or Blaze Reardon's playing Native Sons in Can-Am, or then he was buddies with the Thompsons and then went to Aqui for Junior B. So kind of more opportunity. You'll hear about like Eli Goldbreck. He, I guess, lived in Seattle coaching, but he's from Ithaca, New York, and played D3 there. He said his first box experience was as a kid playing in Onondaga, like for their minor, and I think he even played, like he said, like a year of like some senior B games. But then once he went to Seattle, then he's crossed. Some of those guys are crossing the border and playing in the BC leagues.
Well, and then a few years back with the PBLA when it started, I was with them for a little while, helping them with combines and player selection and stuff. And one guy come up and he's like, "I hope I get on your team." It was Jimmy Chadwick from Buffalo, played junior here in Hamilton with the Bengals. So the experience is there. But in a situation like that, do you count a Jimmy Chadwick as an OLA player or as a New York player?
Yeah, because it's like some of those guys will come over. Even like I think there was a kid I met, can't remember his name, a few years ago. It was just before COVID. He was down here playing for St. Catharines in ALL, and he was from Cleveland. I think he said he played for like Hamilton for like a second. Yeah. So like there has been like some guys that are coming over and trying to get that, box experience over here, like actually play the real stuff.
There's what are they called? Chicago Portagers. A men's team. They just won whatever national box championship is in the U.S. and they're putting up some high scores. And I've chatted with them on social media a couple times. I'm like, you got to come here and play some teams here. I would love to see how they stack up against Grand River Warriors, Rivermen, the Tomahawks. I would love to see it because they're killing everybody in that league over there. And they're in Illinois. And
truthfully, a big thing of like lacrosse in the States is those people from New York or Maryland. They move and go somewhere else, right? Like the Bernhardts, like they were always a big family, went to Maryland and stuff like that. They're from like Long Island originally. Technically, the younger brother, I think, might have been like the youngest guy might have been born in Florida. But then you see, they're the best guys ever from Florida, but then they're originally from New York. Or Will Yeatman was the big guy out of San Diego, and he played in the NFL and also played lacrosse. He played Notre Dame. and also then transferred to Maryland, played both sports. His dad was from Maryland. So it was kind of like, they were like at a time where lacrosse was growing, but then it was like those kind of transplants, I'll call them, people that move around the
Who's
states.
the fella Orangeville just had?
Yeah, the Spalinas.
Yeah.
They had a guy from Georgia. Like even the guy, he was from Georgia. He plays for Syracuse.
Spalinas,
He
good.
goes to Orangeville and plays. So like there's definitely like lacrosse is definitely like been kind of, and that's the whole thing, right? Of US, is it going to take over Canada, right? Because one, you got, it's the population, right? And then the states, and then everybody's getting bigger in Texas, California. So as lacrosse is growing, plus then, right, COVID, they say even with Olympics, right, Canada was more shut down for 2 years, where the U.S., it was booming. Because like even let's say people we deal with for sports, they'd say, oh, this store's getting this or that store's getting this, but they couldn't for 2 years. So they'd be like, oh, this is big in the States and that's big in the States, because they were the only guys playing for like 2 years.
Look at the women's worlds that just happened. USA. Team Canada, they were having scrimmages against other women's teams, and like they come to the ILA and played. They were scrimmaging. They had looks at what each other looked like. Team USA said no. We're not playing. We're not scrimmaging against any other women's teams. They were scrimmaging against junior age teams over there, men's, boys, and nobody got to really got to look at them. And the Team USA was picked a year prior. Team Canada basically was picked on their way to Ithaca. So in women's lacrosse, like you had mentioned earlier, Team USA got the edge, I think.
Yeah,
They
Charlotte
proved it.
North, and she was good. That Charlotte North was good in the ball.
Yeah.
Like obviously we know her as field, but then you put a little bit more of a pocket in her stick, right? She was a good player.
Yeah,
like,
well,
and then that was the thing, was transitioning those girls from field to box, and then they were able to hang.
They sent a statement at the Worlds. They won it.
Yeah.
So, because like the States is so large, and because there is no one league that's prominent, like kind of how like the OLA is, how do scouts find the next big star?
Like colleges, you just go to camps, or they go to these tournaments and everything like that, and like everybody just kind of sits on the sidelines at camps or at the tournaments, and then that's how they're recruiting, talking to coaches, and just word of mouth and connections. And
Well, a lot of times too, I found when I just said this yesterday, you don't see the big push anymore for box players to going away to school. At least not around here. You don't hear it as much. There's still a lot of kids that are going away to school, but you don't hear about the big push anymore, because so many schools have caught on to recruiting the box player. I remember IMG Academy when they had their first national championship a few years back. Willie Sky took a field team down there, and it was JV team. There was probably 60 scouts at our games, at the Six Nations team's games. I won't just say Six Nations, because Willie had a few players from Cattaraugus, but there was probably more scouts there at watching our boys than there was parents or fans. And they all got the clipboards out, and somebody do this and that, and so that's what they were doing. They were going to tournaments and scouting, looking specifically for box style players, and that was 10 years ago.
sometimes too, even like you'll see a lot of these travel teams, they'll get stuff like where their gloves and helmets, they want to match as a team. But back, like I always was kind of, they would say, wear kind of your own high school, because then at least this guy knows, oh, I've had this guy, I've known this player, he's came to my school, and if this guy's had that high school helmet on, more a chance I'm going to recognize him, rather than everybody's wearing the same stuff.
Well, there was Lane, and there was another kid from Waterford that ended up playing down here, Zach Matthews. They went to a one-day showcase in Beverly Hills, Michigan, and there was 400 players there, and maybe each team was going to be coached by a college coach. Lane ended up on a team with a coach from Vermont, and they did give him a call later, but it can be such a cutthroat business. There were players there that were doing specific things that just for the sole purpose of drawing attention to themselves. Davis Prince was there. Wore pink gloves and pink helmet and pink shoes or something ridiculous like that. Yeah, he stood out. So yeah, you're going to remember the kid wearing pink stuff. But that's the way he was. it got so big after a while that players had to do something to stand out. Like Chris said, wear your own high school stuff. At least you'd recognize the school.
Yeah, that because it's gonna lead to my main question with like all this is gonna like to name your top 5. But how do we differentiate the top 5 of someone who hasn't made it to the NLL? If like there's so many people, like if I said who's your top 5 under 21 right now in Canada, and then as opposed to the U.S. There's so many people. Can you really narrow it down?
I'm going to say I can't just because I don't know
like
that many players
under
21 right now.
It's definitely been like a while too. And like sometimes inside Lacrosse, they would always kind of post like their like top 100 lists, and then you don't see it as much too now because like let's say Brendan O'Neill, he commits to Penn State in 8th grade and then decommits in 10th grade and decides to go to Duke, where now those rules are changed, so you don't hear any much of like, oh, this kid's committed here as a 7th grader because they can't anymore.
Yeah, they curbed that. It was ridiculous. Schools were getting kids to commit in the 7th and 8th grade. Like how, and then you get parents who held their kids back just so that in their graduating year they were bigger and more dominant because they were older. It happened a lot years ago in college football or high school football. Definitely. But now it started happening in lacrosse. There was a coach from Canisius a few years back, got a phone call, and the parent was like, "What year do you think I should hold my child back so that he has a better chance of being recruited in his 12th grade year?" And the coach said, "Well, what grade is he in right now?" And they're like, "3rd grade." So the coach was like, "Does he have friends his own age? Yeah. Does he go to birthday parties and sleepovers and stuff? Yeah. Well, why would you take that away from him? Because now you're holding him back and he's got to make new friends again."
There's this like football documentary called Go Tigers. It's like 99, 2000, probably around there. But Massillon, Ohio, and the linebacker and the quarterback that they're filming as seniors were like, "Yeah, we got held back in 8th grade. We did so they did like a second year of 8th grade because they were like, oh, we tell people it's for maturity reasons," which it was, but the maturity reasons was football. We were trying to get another year of playing and getting bigger and stronger, right? So then those kids really, they're like, what? Instead of being 17 or 16 that senior year, they're 18, 19 that fall of football. So it makes a difference.
Coming out physically mature, you're...
Well, that happens in high school and lacrosse. People stay back for take a victory lap just for lacrosse.
Granted, but what happens if somebody's held back in, say, the 7th grade, and then they take that 5th year of high school? So essentially, they're coming out of high school at 20, and they're physically dominant because they're grown, and other kids are coming out of high school at 17. So that's the whole that was the whole mentality of it. My kid will have a better chance being recruited because instead of being 17 years old and 160 pounds, he's 19 or 20 years old and 240 pounds because he's physically mature.
It was like I had a guy, he was like in college. He's like, you kind of know you're at least going to, oldest guy's going to be like 18, 19 in high school, where he's like college, because there was this guy, Rudy Williams, he was in the Air Force and like served over the Middle East. Then he comes back, does 2 years junior college and then 2 years D3 and like was a junior college All-American. But he's a senior in 09 at 25 because he served these years. And then there's been like a handful of guys that have been in like the Marines, Air Force, Navy. They'll serve, kind of get their money for serving, and then they'll come back to school, and the next thing you know, they're playing lacrosse in those
are real men playing. That's real men lacrosse.
Recently, like because of those COVID years and injuries, there was a lot of older guys too. But
well, even here in OLA, they let guys that give them that COVID break in junior. So you were allowed to enter the draft twice. Did it work for some? I guess. I don't know. But it's hard to gauge top 5 under 21 players, like junior age players across the country. You're going to catch that on. You can probably still find it because the Minto Cup just finished.
Yeah, I was going to say like the Spalinas and the Trey Deers, right? They gauge for box the most highlights for sure on Instagram and TikTok and all that, right? Like
guys coming out of like New York, say they're coming out of the FNLA or those guys that are elite players coming out of that league are playing junior A over here somewhere or BC. A lot of them are elite players that stayed B with their respective teams. Onondaga, Newtown.
Well, that was kind of like how even Marshall, right? He was like 21 or something like that. And then he went to Albany. And then when he came back here,
Saskatchewan. He was with Saskatchewan.
oh, he went to
first.
Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Okay, well, even when he was at here, he was talking about like when we asked him about going to the Chiefs, he was just like, no, he's gonna go play out in like he went to Ganawage or something like that. So like people would just be all over the place.
And they
Yeah, everybody
and they didn't
bounces
even
around.
they didn't even play.
Yeah.
Then like what made me feel old was my old high school coach. He's like my JV head coach and my senior year D coach, James Gillis. Jimmy Gillis. He was like a D long pull. His son, like James, I think he was James Gillis too. I just was looking at Instagram, committed to Duke. I guess he's like a big player for Chaminade High School, which is like an all boys school in Long Island. It just made me feel old because I was like, oh, he was born when I was like my senior year of high school. So I was like, I don't know, he must have been in like 11th or 12th grade now. But then I guess he's a better than, sorry James, but he's better than you, I guess, because he's going to Duke and he just went to Herkimer and Delphi James. But
You're old, Chris. You're old.
So
yeah,
I want to go around the room. So if we can't name, top 5 in the States versus top 5 in Canada, let's just say top 5 on Six Nations. And I have a list here.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
Okay.
We're gonna do this list. We're gonna piss people off.
Start over there.
This-
Top 5 from here?
From no,
You can go.
but we have to go in a certain order here.
Okay.
So, top 5 players in junior this upcoming 2025. So, and let's start in general. So, in the OLA, that you could be anyone, not from Six Nations, anyone, top 5, coming into junior or they're currently in junior 2025 season.
One of the first ones that comes to mind is Trey Miller. He's really good. I've played with Trey a couple times. We've been on each other's team like every other year growing up. I think he just played for the Rebels this last season. He's real good. Another one, Dale. It's another, but he was even on the show, I believe. Yeah, Dale. I think Dale's really good.
And this is from like other
Yeah.
than Six Nations too. Okay.
Yeah, this is including all the guys in junior right now.
Okay.
And another guy, he was actually my rookie. That's last season I played in Wilmont, James Oberly. He is like full heart and soul kind of player. Like he is just a grinder. I think that if he keeps on the path he's on, I feel like by the end of his junior career, he's gonna be really good. That's a guy that should probably look out for. Another one. It's so hard to say because there's a lot of guys I grew up playing with that I want to name, but there's just so many other guys in junior right now that are so good. I'm just gonna keep it close to home. I'd have to say Nick Thomas. I think Nick Thomas was. I don't know if he's going into his last year of junior this year, but he was just the captain out in what was it, Cambridge or something like that. He's taken pretty good leaps in his game from the last time we were wearing the same jersey and whatnot. Like he's just growing a lot, gotten a lot bigger and stronger. Crazy shot. Last one for junior, I'd have to say. I don't know. This one's hard. It's tough. There's a lot of players.
What about someone who is just coming into junior, very first year?
Just coming into
you're excited
junior?
for them. Someone that you're excited for.
I think he's.
Or someone that you want to encourage
I
to
think
try out.
I think he's going into his second year of junior this coming up year. But Noah McQueen. Actually, I've never seen Noah McQueen play too much growing up, but I got him. I watched him play against Wilmont actually in, I think his rookie season, just this last season, and he looked really good.
He was only an AP. He was on the intermediate team, a U22 team.
He was only an AP.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes it even better. Then I guess he's pretty good.
Now, what about just Six Nations top 5 junior right now? Top 5 dead or alive.
I figure you named 3 of them already.
Yeah, like Trey, Dale, Nick.
Noah, you've named 4.
4, yeah, I named 4. I've just been keeping it close to home. But to name a few more, I believe he just aged out. Rolando Henderson, he was on that Cambridge team with Nick. I've been on his team a few years, and he's just another one of those guys. He's heart and soul of the team. Like he's all grit and grind. No breaks on the guy. You love to have him on your team, but you hate to play against him kind of guy. And he's really good. I can't really think of much more like younger guys coming into junior. I haven't really paid attention to too much minor, but just some guys like around my age. I know. Actually, my cousin John Hill I'm pretty sure he was just playing junior C in BC. He started out here with the Stealth too. I'm pretty sure he's coming back home to play here next season. So he'll probably be around. He's pretty good defenseman. But
Steve Bunn plays for Hagersville Hawks hockey.
yeah, I think so.
He's probably back playing hockey.
Yeah, but just for next season, I think he's staying home though. I meant.
Probably to throw in his list too, I'd add like Joe Squire. He'll probably play.
Yeah,
I
he
think
was just on the
straight
Rebels,
arrow.
yeah.
And he AP'd a lot of arrows at the end of the year. I'm sure he'll play straight junior year this year.
And then what about you? Throw in some other names. Excited that they're coming into junior, or that they're going to like their top 5 in the junior.
I gotta
get into senior.
I gotta give a shout out to Blaze Becker. He's both worlds. He played junior here. He's from across the border.
He played St. Bonaventure.
Yeah,
right?
I think he's still in junior, but the kid's come into his own. I mentioned him earlier in a podcast episode at the beginning of the season that he was coming into his own, and because he was a shy kid, he was a small kid. He had hustle, he had a lot of heart, but now he's a little more aggressive. He's come into his own game. I got to give it to Chaz and Lawrence Hill. Was it Chazzy played on the Rebels, or was it Lawrence?
It was Chaz.
Chazzy and Lawrence, I think, is done minor now, so he's going to be coming into junior. You got to love the small guys. You got to. They're literally, they're small, but they have the smarts.
Then like Ryder Johnson, right? Played all those games.
Yeah.
Rebels last year as an AP, so this is like technically his first real like full season at
Ryder,
junior.
Ryder. This is his technically first year at junior, and he didn't even AP with the arrows too.
Yeah, I think he travels for field as well a lot. I know they're all over.
There's a fella. He's not from Six Nations, but he's played here. Jack Biro, a good player, good kid. He's come into his own too. He used to do a lot of one-on-one work with Lane. Noah's come into his own. Noah had to take a year off. Noah McQueen, because he had some health issues. I mean, the kid's like 6'4", 6'5" now, lanky kid. There seems to be a lot of lanky kids nowadays. Big Dale Burning, Brandy Anderson just graduated from junior. Now Noah's right up there. If Noah put some meat on his bones, like he's going to be a deadly force to reckon with. Goaltender from Cambridge, big native kid.
Oh, the Saskatchewan guy.
Yeah.
I can't blank on his name off the top of my head, but he's still too like technically he would just be his first full year junior this year.
He AP'd with Cambridge Junior B last year. A big kid. I went out there and scouted him because I thought he's the size of this kid. I thought he was coming out of junior. He's technically just going into junior.
Yeah, when they first moved here, talking to his dad, I was like, because they had to put him on like an intermediate Cambridge card, then AP'd him technically for Cambridge. But
Yeah,
his parents like dedicated. I think they were like living in a hotel in Brantford like all summer. Like
he's a big kid.
Yeah.
He's a good goalie. He's nothing but bright future for all of these kids. I can't think of any more off the top of my head.
Kenny Porter's another younger guy in junior right now.
Yeah,
He's a real
him.
Kenny.
Wales are set.
Yeah, Wales
they're both
too,
at the
yeah.
Hill.
Warren Cook.
Worry, he's pretty dear to my heart. Warren Cook. He's such a nice kid.
Lethal.
He just played U18 Team Haudenosaunee at the Brogdon Cup. I remember when that was in Florida, and I had pushed for a team Iroquois back then. It never come to fruition, but I'm glad it's there now. Yeah, they're probably just on their way home now from that. But yeah, Warren Cook, nice kid. He's I give him a special shout out because he's at the Hill as well, and he went there. First, he went to Gowaneo here, and then went to McKinnon Park, and they tried to put him in what are the classes rated now? When I was in high school, it was advanced, general, and basic.
It's like nowadays it's like university, college, and then
Essential.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like
It's
that.
like it's called
yeah.
essential or something.
Well, they tried to put Worry in the lower category because he had went to Gawaneo first, and now here he's at the Hill shining. So not only did he have to overcome a learning language barrier, you got to be away from home, and that kills a lot of careers for our players, for our people, because they have to leave home and they get homesick and just pack it in and come home. But Worry's killing it. And I give him a special shout out, not just on the field or on the floor, but for the adversity he's overcome. And I'm glad that Kenny and Wales are there too, because I'm sure that they probably help him out.
And then what about senior? Anybody coming into senior or who is going to be in the senior division 2025? Top 5 from anywhere, top 5.
I'm putting my brother in there. I'm throwing John in there. John is like one of my favorite players ever. I don't know what it is about his game, but it just works. Like there's nothing too like crazy about it. He's not crazy athletic. He's not like, he doesn't have the most wild shot in the world. He's not a trickster. It just works. I don't know. So I just love his game. I got to throw him in there. Another guy, he just played for the Tomahawks with my brother John, actually, Trav Stotts. He's just one of those guys. He's just a super nice guy. I just love being on his team. I just love being around him. Like he's just a mean defenseman too. So it's like a weird balance there. It's fun to see. It's fun to be around. But in terms of like actual best of the best top 5, not just who I like watching play. Coming into senior, probably it's a little biased, but some of my guys that were just aged out in Wilmont with me, like my buddy Eric Snyder just played his first year of senior this year, and I personally think he's a really good player, so I'd throw him in the list. Myself, I'm going into senior next year. I'll throw myself in there already. Why not? Honestly, watching who was it? I think it was Amos Whitcomb. Watching him for Allegheny, he's really good. He's probably one of my favorite players in senior right now. It was pretty fun to watch him play.
Now, speaking of Allegheny, you didn't mention your other brother.
I'm keeping him out of here. I already gave him a shout out. He got a shout out earlier. I said I looked up to him. That's all he gets. He doesn't get the top 5.
And what about and everybody else? Top 5.
Or just like guys aging out, or just
No. Coming into senior, or who are going to be playing in senior this year, 2025.
Like
because we still got some time, remember, but some people are moving up.
Yeah, like obviously like the best guys like around here we'd say would be a lot of the chief guys and stuff like that. Obviously, like NLL guys and stuff like that. I think Rebels had a couple guys, Damon DeCare and Brady Anderson, age out, so I'm sure they'll be trying out for different teams. Maybe with Jay at the Rivermen, Thunderhill, right? I can't really know who the Arrows. They were kind of really a young team, and same with the Rebels. They were both pretty young teams, so there'll definitely be 2 teams that maybe this year can push for some playoffs, or maybe even try to make a Minto and a Founders, because they should have an older group, both those teams this year. But
I've already been putting feelers out.
Already been putting feelers out?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for guys that are coming in for the Rivermen. I'm excited for Thunder. Thunder said he sat right here on this chair and said I'll come out for the Rivermen. Lyndon Hill too. He sat right there in that chair and said he'd come out. So I'm excited to see where they're going to go. Damon, we've talked it over with Rivermen Brass, and we're going to keep an eye on Damon. We'd love to have him out. Mm-hmm. Other guys coming in, we got since the President's Cup is in Ontario this year, I know we're going to have a lot of guys come out that want to crack the roster. Just from conversations I've had with a few people involved in the Rivermen and a few people outside, I know that there's guys that want to come back. So our team may look entirely different than it did this year. But we got a good core group of guys. Zach Hairwires, he said he's staying in Ontario, which is good for us. Big, well, not big, but points-wise, lefty offensive guy. Lane's rights come back to the Rivermen this year.
Is he staying though?
That'll be a discussion probably for the springtime. There's a few other guys that said they wanted to come out. There's guys like we don't know where they're going to be on the bubble with us. We don't know if they're going to go to the Chiefs. Like Sammy Leclerc, huge offensive guy on our righty side. We got back from the Presidents and he stepped right into the Chiefs. He won a man with the Chiefs. So guys like that, where are they going to go? Do I have to fill that spot? If he stays with the Chiefs, do I have to find somebody for that righty spot? There's guys that are coming out, like you said, Brenny probably should be out. And even from an AP standpoint, we always look forward to who can we call up, depending on where these guys end up in junior. If they end up with the Arrows, we can't call them up because we're B. But if they stay with the Rebels, like if Dale Burning was a Rebel next year, we could call him up. If he goes Arrows, we can't. But another one, Trey Miller. Owen had mentioned Trey. I'm anxious to see where he's going to end up junior wise, because again we can use him as an AP, but even just to see him progress, just to see these guys progress that rightfully so should be junior A somewhere, whether it's with the Arrows or whether it's wherever. Because when it comes down to the political side of things, you may take a player like Trey Miller, junior A caliber player, might not fit the system here. Trade him for a couple of players that you could bring in that fit the system, and Trey could be an immediate fix with somebody else. I mean, not saying Trey's going to get traded because I don't know, but just an example. It happened to Lane in junior. Finally said, yes, I'll play junior A. Arrows traded him to the Toronto Beaches. They got whoever they got for him, and it kind of fit. It fit on Lane's end anyways. He ended up in the Ontario final. And the Arrows, I don't even know if they made the playoffs that year.
Shots fired.
I mean, it was years ago. Whatever. They can take it however they want, but that's the nature of the beast. Like,
Yeah.
Owen could rehab his knee, go out with whoever he's going to play for, get a call up to B. B team may want to keep him. We got guys right now that we could be sitting on. Well, yeah, we'll sit on him and use him for trade bait for somebody down the road. Another prime example, towards the end of the season, we had acquired the rights of Lane Haruska, a goaltender. Traded him away for another goaltender, Drew Hutchison. Hutchie's got to go back to Innismore. Haruska's coming back to us. Let's see what kind of camp any of these goalies have. We don't know where they're going to end up. Like I said, we got Linden coming in. We have probably our goalies returning. Dusty, Elin, Haruska is our property, whether he comes out or not. So there's 4 right off the hop. There's other goalies I'm sure will want to come out. We don't know who's going to surprise us. We might end up with a whole different goaltending squad. Dusty may end up senior A somewhere. Elin may end up somewhere else. Like, these guys may want to go to Can-Am. The phone is always ringing for everybody. We don't know where they're going to end up.
It's got to be exciting for lacrosse now. Like, I feel that more people are talking, more people are getting involved and things like that. Especially since Grand River Warriors came along, opened the door, the floodgate. The Grand River Warriors opened that floodgate for a lot of people to be like, nah, man, let's get out there and let's just play.
No, they did good. Grand River Warriors did good as an expansion team. There wasn't much expected of them. And they still rocked it. They had a decent team, and they're only going to get better. I mean, who's to say these graduating players ain't coming out and will end up in Can-Am? We don't know. I might have big aspirations for guys coming in, and they might not even show up on our doorstep. They may go Can-Am.
Yeah, everyone's just like Hood and Shawnee, man. Can-Am.
Who's to say Owen might rehab his knee and end up in Onondaga?
Ooh, I don't know about all that.
I don't know
about all that.
So what about NLL? Top 5 NLL. A lot of trading drafts. I know I'm waiting for all that stuff to get done.
Kind of tough if you guess. It's
let
like
the encyclopedia go here.
Yeah, I was thinking like Jeff T, Josh Burns, Dane Smith, Randy Stotts, and then that's where I was trying to do I just throw in a Dougie Jamieson to get some goalie love, and then Kyle Rubish, Brad Cree, Priola, like those veteran Tyson Bell, they're probably like your better defenders, and then Christian Del Bianco, like there's for goalies. Like,
isn't he done now?
He's technically, the NL is just weird, right? So we'll have to see if he sits out a year or does he get traded.
Well, he said he was leaving Calgary, so
Yeah.
where's he going? Ladner can't pay for him every year, so
Yeah. I think it seems like he wants to go to Vancouver, but
from a personal standpoint, he's from the area. It would make sense.
Kurt Malowski and his former Calgary coach is there, so I mean they could definitely use a goalie. Like I know that Aiden Walsh was like decent last year. Aaron Bold is still a free agent, so he might be finally hanging him up. And
Well, it's when you get into Del Bianco's not that old, but
he's still a young guy.
Personal level, business wise, he's a big family stuff. You may want to just play closer to home. Whether or not are you going to pursue championships and are you going to pursue records, or you just want to play and be closer to home? That's what happens to a lot of players in every pro sport. Hate to say it, I mean, but how many NHL players in the twilight of their career decide to become a Toronto Maple Leaf because this is where they're from? I mean, they've been Toronto Maple Leafs have been hiring retiring players since 1967. So, kind of shows.
Imagine if Brandon Montour goes to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I hope it never happens.
I know, right? He's on a good path. Don't go to the Leafs.
No, I mean, but it happens. A lot of players who could still put up numbers in the NLL come back to Senior B. Some people say there's more money in it as opposed to coming from NLL and then going MSL. They want a slower pace. They want to be closer to home. They want to do this, do that. Like prime example, Sean Evans, retired, didn't play MSL, but ended up at the President's Cup with standing Buffalo Fighting Sioux.
That might have been Jeff Schuyler next year. Maybe he'll be on the coaching staff. I don't know if he's gonna.
He's
still a good player.
I heard some rumblings while I was at the President's Cup from a dollars and cents point of view. I won't throw it out there on here, but I mean there is plenty of incentive for guys like Sean Evans to play for the Fighting Sioux. Chigliano, the goaltender. There was a lot of incentive there. It's going back to what you were saying, how guys were like, "Wait, I let Rory Smith punch me in the head for free," kind of thing.
The one player for like NLO I'm excited to kind of see is that Levi Anderson. He was like a St. Albert guy. He played President's Cup last year, St. Albert, but this year was in the PLL, so he didn't play box this summer. The Rush drafted him last year, so he's in the league. And then that Adam Portes, he scored a big game winner for the Whipsnakes in PLL and was the first overall pick second pick last year for Vegas. And then his younger brother's on the Bruins. So I thought that he a good guy. He played at Loyola College, so had this Dyson Williams too. Was last year's number 1 overall pick in Albany. Albany, right? Good team. And they went to the championship last year and lost, but then they pick up now their first overall pick from last year, Dyson Williams, and then made that trade for Eric Fennell, so they could even be a better team this year than they were last year.
So like you're at ILA, you run into a lot of players. Do you ever have any conversations about like what people look for in deals? Like, you know, that like, oh, like, hey, do you just want like a 1-year deal? Or do you want to go away for 3?
Well,
Like,
I think
is that a thing, or is that?
I think a lot of players, they always say like, or just like I know, like not even talking to them there, but just like known for years, it's a lot of players do sign that 1-year deal, but it's not guaranteed. Like other sports, like you can get cut tomorrow and not get any money. But I know a lot of them like signing the 1-year deals is like because maybe the NLL that salary cap will go up. So I know you'll usually just see in the NL always like 1-year deals, maybe mostly 3-year deals. I've seen like a few guys sign 3-year deals recently because maybe in a couple of years the NLL becomes a big money maker and these guys don't want to be really stuck in those.
Well, a lot of guys get signed to a 1-year deal in the NLL because that's the lowest contract they have too. So
yeah, they got to do that just to get really to training camp.
Yeah.
Or you'll see a guy sign a 4-year deal, go to training camp and get cut, and then next year he's on somewhere else.
But oftentimes, if they want to just look at you, they have to sign you to a 1-year deal before you can even come on the floor, because that's the shortest contract they have. So you see a lot of players. You see social media blow up. This team just signed 5 players to 1-year deals each. That's not to say those guys are going to be on the roster. That's just to say that those guys are going to be on at training camp.
Yeah, and like plus too, a lot of these teams, right? They want to bring in a decent amount of guys. They want to hold inter squad scrimmages and stuff like that. So you'll kind of see a lot of guys that maybe just be there for that 1 week, say they got to sniff at it, and
yeah, if they need 40 players for an inter squad, they're going to sign 25 to 1 year deals.
The biggest thing was like even. I guess like those guys don't get paid for those exhibition games, so I was like, oh, I guess that's why they're always really the can and the toy drives, because I guess the Vegas is going to play Buffalo and St. Catharines coming up for an exhibition, and that sounds like there's going to be tickets sold because it's going to go towards Minto Cup. So they were like, oh, if there's tickets sold, shouldn't the players get paid for that exhibition game? But technically it's a fundraiser, so that might be that loop around it.
If it's a food drive, just give them a couple cans of beefaroni.
Yeah.
Send them home with some Campbell's.
There you go.
But yeah, because I got into a deep dive on Reddit, and I started looking about how much players would get played.
What's the thing? There's nobody really knows what they're. It's not like you go on this, and that's been a thing where people have talked about like, oh, you don't really know the salary cap of NLL teams and stuff. It's kind of more kept hush hush, where it's not as you go. I can go right now and say like, this is my favorite NFL team. This is the players' contracts. Like you can really deep dive in those 4 other major sports, right? Of like, KD's getting this money, Bradley Beal's getting this money, Devin Booker's getting this money. Here's their contracts. In 2027, the Phoenix Suns will have this much salary cap. Like, you know what I mean? Or their hard cap this year, where the NL, you don't know what they're actually.
Here's how much Dane Smith makes, and it's just question marks.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was on that the Reddit thread, and there was some people like chiming in about like some of the contracts they had seen, and there was one person saying, "Oh, a starter contract's at like $36,000 a year for the season, and it comes with how many games and different things you have to show up for." And there's another person saying that no, that's not the lowest contract. I got a $14,000 one, and then like there was this. So like I'm wondering what is the lowest contract, because obviously the lowest contract
you could just be
nothing.
on what's it, practice squad? They get like $150 a month or something like that. Or something
A month? What?
It's something
That's not
like
even gas.
yeah. Like I think it's like I think there's a significant drop there if they are practice squad. So they could sign this 1 year deal for X amount, but then you go practice squad, and then here's that minimum of like there was a player he talked about. Him going to Colorado, he was the away team. He had family there, and he bought a bunch of tickets. And then he got told, "Oh, we're actually moving this forward up from the practice squad. You're going to the practice squad." So he's like, "Oh, I lost all that money." He's like, "I was kind of still young, didn't realize I could use these other guys' free tickets."
Yeah.
He's like, "I bought tickets, didn't play, and then got put on a lower salary for that week because I had to go in the practice squad." So,
Yeah.
But yeah, because it said that the lowest was like 14,000. But I would imagine that like some, has there ever in any way, shape, or form would it ever be possible someone just goes on the floor and is like, "No, I'm here for the love of the game"?
well, pretty much is what it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're obviously playing because they want to be pro athletes and stuff like that. And that's kind of like that PLL where they're getting about 40 grand US, right? But then too, they are getting taxed. You got to think of that too, right? Like you go to these markets, they're getting taxed by the team they play, and then those cities because that's the big thing, right? NBA and stuff for different leagues. Like you pay tax in each state they play in.
You want to
that
talk
season.
Playing for the love of the game? The Arena Lacrosse League is playing for the love of the game because you have to pay to play.
Yeah, you're paying $450 to ride the pine, maybe, right?
Semi-pro league, as it's called, and you have to pay to play in it.
And then like you hear the old war stories of those 90s and early 2000s where those guys are saying they were really just getting a couple $100 a game and blowing it at the bar after, right? So it's like, so
basically you're getting paid in beer because
yeah.
I pay you $200 because you played really good today, and you go spend $250 in a bar, you're $50 in a hole.
Yeah, I think I heard the Sal Cassio interview once, and he pretty much said it like that. Like, oh yeah, the whole team had to go to the team bar after by the hotel, and he's like, my paycheck was done, but that's why they all have. That's the thing, right? Of when's lacrosse going to be the full-time sport? Of a lot of those pro field guys coach colleges, high schools, teachers, and then a lot of your box guys and stuff like that. They'll coach the summer for love because a lot of them are minor or junior coaches not getting paid to coach, but then they are plumbers, construction workers, cops, firefighters, teachers. So it's like you need your full-time job still, right? Like
yeah, I mean, Arena Lacrosse League, you're playing for the love of it because you got to pay to play. I mean, how many guys, I would like to know, I don't know if you know, I don't know, I haven't did the research, how many guys actually get pulled up out of the ALL to the NLL Like, is it worth being called a semi-pro league, or is it worth being called a farm league to the NLL? How many guys actually get pulled up?
Like, I don't know. You kind of more see, and that's the thing too. They say, right, with those NLL players, when they would go play the PL, those practice squad guys, whatever rule they have, does the NLL team pay that players $450 to get in the league, or does the ALL want to be more professional, so they waive that NLL practice squad players fee, right? Because I'm sure a guy's not, if you're only making a couple $100 on an NLL practice squad, you're not going to blow that by paying $450 to play in the ALL.
And like even ALL West, I only know of like 2 or 3 players that I've read about getting pulled up to an NLL team. So what is the ratio? That's what I would like to know.
I think it's not as high as, I mean, like, if you really probably, they want a track record, or do they, if you count those guys that get drafted as practice squad players and just happen to play in the ALL, does that kind of boost their numbers up?
That's what I was just gonna say too. Is like, what's the signing with that? Because I know in like other leagues, like you were talking about how the NBA and their contracts work, you can draft a player and immediately put him on a 2-way contract, and he's in your affiliate team, your farm team. So, like, can you do that in the NLL? Does that happen? Like,
and that's probably been the biggest thing that I've like kind of always heard was like those NLL teams of you're drafting a guy in the second, third round, and you're cutting him. And then next thing you know, like 2 years later, he got better playing in the summertime or different leagues. And then he's on somebody else, and it's like you don't really have, like, you want that affiliation of a minor baseball, you know, AHL
like
for
a draft
hockey,
and stash
G
situation,
League,
kinda.
like
That's the other thing.
they wanted that PBLA to kind of be that as well. Right?
There's
like,
no set team-to-team affiliation within those leagues. Like for example, here you got the Snipers and the Bears, Six Nations Snipers, the Schweigen Bears. You have teams in the NLL who are Six Nations player heavy, right? Why is there no straight affiliation? And I know there's a lot of politics and a lot of paperwork has to be done to make that happen from league to league, not just team to team. Because I mean, Halifax, very very Six Nations heavy, owned by a Six Nations band member, owned by Kurt Stiers. Does he look at, if he needs a call up, does he look at Snipers and Bears only? Or does he look at, I need a lefty O guy, I'm going to look league wide? Can even look in the ALL West. Like, that's, to me, I think that's what needs to happen, is there needs to be team-to-team affiliation. NHL, AHL, no matter where the team ended up, the Leafs have a farm team. They're always called the Leafs, but they may be in St. John's, they may be in Toronto. They've moved around quite a bit. How many teams at the Habs, their farm team? How many cities has that been located in?
Yeah, like I said, it can be done. And the fact that there is an ALL West now, those kind of Western NLL teams can kind of affiliate with them, and then you can do the Eastern this side.
It can be done, but why isn't it?
Well, this leads me to my next segment, and it's let's talk logistics. Why hasn't the game grown in the last 5 years, or has it? What proof of evidence do we have, or is it too early to say if the game has actually grown? And the reason I say that is because most businesses typically make their investments back, or they break even after 3 to 5 years. So the teams that have started, have they made their investments back? What teams have been around for more than 3 to 5 years? Why are teams folding? Logistically, why is the game growing? Is it growing, or is it not? It's up to you guys.
In the youth or in the pro levels? Because that's where it can kind of gets stagnant.
I would say the pro levels, because what team just had a fold?
Panther City, but there was no, it's all these teams are kind of losing money and stuff, right? So it's like you don't want.
But that's the thing, though. They're not being successful. So logistically, they're putting money into something and they're not getting a return. So what needs to be done in lacrosse where it can be logistically have a return?
Sometimes it could be like the area and stuff like that. Like I know, like they were like, oh, Panther City wasn't the greatest name. Like they could have been like Fort Worth or kind of like it was like. Yeah. And then they said too, Dallas. Like Dallas people don't really travel that Fort Worth area. So then you can tell only 5 people in the stands. Or are they doing stuff in the community?
They're only 45 minutes apart, Dallas and Fort Worth. I lived in Fort Worth. They're only like 45 minutes apart. I think look at the Arizona Coyotes. They've eventually had to move. I think you have to cater to your crowd.
Definitely, like you said, the rodeos, those are packing out there and stuff like that. And
Oh yeah.
and it is tough too. I know, like they try to say, like, I don't play hockey, but I'll watch it in NHL. So I know a lot of the lacrosse girls where they say, "Oh, we got to grow the game and get more players," so then they'll watch pro lacrosse. But it's like, oh, you don't really need that. And sometimes too, that's when lacrosse is up on the paywalls. People that are going to be a brand new fan or never know what lacrosse is aren't going to pay money to watch like lacrosse on paywalls where you're flipping TV and something's on Sportsnet or TSN or EBC. That's how you get the eyeballs on, right? Where you're kind of clicking and there's bowling on TSN or darts or something like that, right? Like
That's a piss off. You know there's a game on, but you look at all the sports channels and they got darts.
yeah, and like you said, there are even people like let's just say in Hamilton, you heard a lot of people like around here, right? Like they never played lacrosse, maybe in the Hamilton area or Brantford. Oh, we go to this game. It's good entertainment. The tickets aren't expensive. So like they don't have to ever play lacrosse. You just need new fans that want to see the sport once and then kind of get hooked to it.
Because then, like, logistically, like, from a business aspect, you think about, like, how do we acquire more fans? How do we get more customer? What is your customer acquisition cost? That's what it all comes down to. How much marketing dollars do we need to put into this so that we can get a return on our investment? So how much does it cost to acquire a fan is really the kind of the question to grow the game. It's like, how much marketing dollars is it going to cost, and what type of marketing do we need? Do we need more platforms like this? Do we need more shows who are talking about authentic lacrosse rather than what is being portrayed out in the media? Or what is it that really needs to grow the game? Because that's what it comes down to is how can we get more fans? How can we get more listeners? How can we get more eyes and viewers on this amazing sport? And that will grow the game.
Well, I know I've never witnessed it personally, but I know, for example, for Owyn, he played for Wilmont. Those Wilmont players are heavily involved in the community. They're at car shows helping park cars.
They work fairs.
Yeah, work the local fair, volunteering,
volunteer at elementary schools,
getting it out there. Not to say that our teams don't here. I remember a few years ago the Rebels were participating in what do we have here in a community awareness week. Rebels were helping participate in all kinds of stuff. That I'd like to see it get back to that. That's growing the game locally. But Chris is right. You might have fans in Hamilton who, even though the Toronto Rock just played there for a season or two, have never witnessed a game. How do you grow it there? For me, it's start with the kids. Because if a kid comes home and says, hey, mom, hey, dad, I want to play this, the parents are going to give it a try, at least one season.
Then those NLL teams too, right? That's when like some of those younger players move into market. The team will set like a couple of them up in an apartment, and then they'll kind of go around local radio, TV shows, go in the schools, go to an event.
It's called synergy marketing.
Selling tickets. Yeah.
So essentially what you need is we need more people out there like ourselves going and standing in front of people saying, hey, have you heard of lacrosse? Because some people haven't even heard of lacrosse.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's what's needed.
I'm not even bullshitting. I heard it. I heard a woman say it, and it was very cliche, and it was right out of the movie Crooked Arrows. This woman at the Dick's Sporting Goods Tournament of Champions in Florida, I heard her say, and to paraphrase, I didn't know that Indians played lacrosse, is what she said. We're at the Dick's tournament, and there's 2 or 3 teams that were 2 teams for sure that were Grand River Ironmen. And that's my phone's ringing for Christ's sakes. And then there was
2 Royal Reds teams.
Royal Reds, and so there was probably four teams from here, and then I think Oneida had a team out there, and then there was a team or 2 from like the Newtown Cattaraugus area. So for this woman, she's walking around she's got their rolled up pant legs and the fancy preppy whatever the hell they're wearing, and I heard her say that to her younger daughter. I didn't know that Indians played lacrosse. I'm like, really? Mind you, this was probably 10 years ago or more, but still, how do you? She's obviously there watching her son. He's probably got some prep school that he goes to, and they've paid almost probably $100,000 a year for him to go there and wear all the top of the line gear and everything, and doesn't know the history of the game.
Doesn't know it's the national sport of Canada.
That's the piss off for me. You preach and preach about these games you know nothing about, Like, and that's, to me, it's a what's popular in society today kind of thing.
Like, can TSN like get the Man Cup like on the actual like TSN and Minto Cups and stuff like that, right? Like, if it is these Canada sports and these are the big championships, like, you think you could get that on
It's
as well?
very possible. All they would have to do is they would have to go talk to the owner of, like, let's say the arena, and they'd have to go say, okay, well, these sponsors that are currently sitting on these boards right here, we have to make sure that they're okay with them being advertised, and that we're also okay with advertising them. So you have to start building those relationships, and that's what we're missing out on. Is we're not building those relationships with what they say is our allies and all these things. Like, we have to get out there at some point and be like, hey, we have something amazing here.
TSN was here for the Minto Cup a few years back, when who was on the Minto Cup team, Sid and Cody were on it. So that's how far back it was when the Arrows hosted the Minto Cup here. What was it, 06?
Mm-hmm.
TSN was here, but not for all the games. Just for like championship game.
That's still big though.
And,
Even that.
And like, you think too,
huge.
it's like, obviously for them too, it's money in dollars, right? How many viewerships are we getting? They need the ads and
But
commercials.
for
Like,
Canada's national sport to be having a junior and a senior national championship, and it's not on one of the major networks, it's on a network that's kind of obscure and not many people can get. Even now, even the NLL games, TSN's picked up a couple, or whatever, Sportsnet or whatever channels picked up a few, but how many, you almost got to buy some package where you might get that channel as kind of an add-on kind of thing that
you have to get the ESPN and the TSN Plus really to watch them all, right? And then even some of those games, if it's the TSN game of the week, you can go back and rewatch it, but those ESPN Plus games, it's live and that's it. You can't go back and rewatch.
For an elder in our community who may not be tech savvy and may not know how to find these channels, they have to miss out because...
Well, even like Bleacher Report, they're like, the internet, sometimes, right? Rural area and stuff. But Bleacher Report wouldn't even load half the time. Like, that's how bad they were.
You know where the community goes? They go to Neil Henhock's Facebook page because he's always got those lives on there. He's always got those lives. Go to that Facebook page. He's got them.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man.
Good old Neil, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. Like you said, it's Canada's national sport. Why doesn't Canada treat it like it's its national sport then?
It's just hockey, right?
Yeah,
It is.
that's a good question. There we go, right?
See, I had heard rumblings years ago that the NLL was trying to work with the NHL and put a national lacrosse league team in every city that had an NHL team. That would be great. There'd be 32 teams. However, where would they play out of? Because these NHL teams have the contracts for the arenas. They have say into who plays where.
Well, have you ever watched? I just watched this movie. It just came out on Netflix. It's from like 2016. It's the movie about McDonald's. Anybody ever see that movie?
I've seen that. You kind of
Supersize Me?
No, not Supersize Me.
like how he made it, and
seen
then
that one.
he pretty much then he kind of said at the end like McDonald's was very like American and like kind of he took it from those brothers and
Yeah, so basically, what you do is so like these teams. The reason that they already own the own the arenas. So most of the teams are owned by real estate people. They're in the real estate business, so they basically buy an arena and they say, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll buy into portions of other companies and only allow the companies that I want to use my arena." And then that's how you just kind of capitalize on what you want in there.
well, even a lot of the teams, right? Like the Joe Tsai guy owns technically the Net Stadium, or the Clippers billionaire guy built a $2 billion arena for the Clippers, and it's like
Mark Cuban.
like they all like kind of owns like a lot of these owners own their own stuff. Even the NFL stuff sometimes too, right? They're saying they'll get money like those baseball stadiums. They'll put some of their money up, but then also those cities will kind of put tax dollars up too in a lot of those places, and that's when.
Well, prime example, this new arena that's coming to Brantford. How many seat is that going to be? I was told 14,000.
Where's
And
it
is that
going?
just all taxpayers, I'm guessing.
Where Earl Haig Pool is now.
Oh, that's what they're doing there?
Is there enough room?
They're going to be. But that's what I was talking to a city
Pretty
worker
close to that Grand River.
when we were making the pitch to the city of Brantford when we wanted to host the President's Cup. We talked to city employees at the city of Brantford. One of the employees said to me, When that new arena comes up, it would be cool to have an NLL team there because it's going to seat 14,000 people.
And I heard they're still keeping the Civic Center too, right?
Civic Center is going to be
How is that going to fit there?
the practice rink for the Bulldogs.
It's gonna be real close to the river.
Yeah. Like,
It's gonna
right
be,
where Earl Haig is.
gonna
It's
be
like
on
you're
the res,
right by the
basically.
river. How are you going to fit? You're not even going to have parking. I don't
It's in the
know.
works.
lot of
Probably a
landfill,
few years,
probably,
right?
yeah.
Until it's
It was
fully built.
it was approved. Let's just say that it was approved.
All right, well, we'll see.
I don't know.
Gonna build a
Maybe
parking garage next or something.
maybe when you protest.
Oh, no, sir. No.
Maybe when you protest, you can put one of your provisions in that an NLL
no,
team
sir.
has to be there.
No, sir. Not me. Not me. Not Ty. Not Ty.
I don't know. Let's see how it unfolds. Maybe it's not going to be a 14,000 seat arena. It'd be nice, but
They
maybe
need more space because, like, Earl Haig's pretty close to the Grand River. Like, it's like, you're right there. Like I don't even know where people would park.
they'd park over at Freshco like they do now.
There's not enough room over at Freshco.
Exactly.
Oh, like the casino be
I was
popping.
gonna say, yeah, can't even park at the casino either. That's always full.
Maybe they'll add on to the casino. Maybe they'll make the casino and the Civic Center and this new arena one big building. It makes sense.
It kind of does.
It kind of does, but it's also under land claim. So to grow the game from my goal for the last few years, and I've thrown it out there and I mention it and I talk to people and then I don't do anything with it because everybody expects just me to do it. Is bring back the Legends Cup tournament. That tournament used to rival the Nations Cup as far as caliber of play, crowd it would draw, everything. But I want it to go bigger. I don't want. It's great to have the Legends Cup and have 6 teams from 6 nations, and if I take 10 teams, there's chances are the championship is staying here. That's great, but to grow the game, I would like to invite teams from across North America. But a lot of people don't realize the work that goes into that. A lot of people don't realize, like, how many teams from here have went and played in a lacrosse tournament in Nashville.
There's like 3 or 4 this year. Like you said, probably for that Legends Cup, it's probably just getting your committees and stuff like that. Or did you want to, like the fundraiser? A lot of those tournaments are cash cows, right? You're
Exactly.
You're paying
how
over
many-
$1,800 US to play in those things.
How many teams exactly have went from here to play in tournaments in Las Vegas? Quite a few have. So my goal is to have this Legends Cup tournament, but have it on a bigger scale. Not saying I want it to go like across North America. It'd be cool, but what I mean is to have it here.
Yeah, and those teams come here would
and
be
have
cool.
those teams come here. Like, look at the Man Cup. We had Victoria Shamrocks here for 8 days or whatever. President's Cup, Ladner, Surrey, BC, Ladner, BC just had 8 teams. Were there for a week. What I mentioned earlier, the Chicago Portagers, they're like the national champions in men's box in the U.S. Why can't they come here?
I don't know. These are good questions for Six Nations Tourism or maybe Six Nations Economic Development Corporation, because that would bring a lot of money to this community and it would be good for tourism. So that's a lot of good questions for these organizations that are be listening.
That's what I'm talking about. But what everybody expects, because it's my idea, and somebody will probably steal it now, but I don't care because I got the Legends Cup trophy sitting at home.
Well, you'll have to carry it up there. I don't know.
They want me to do the layout. Yeah, it's a great idea. Let me know when you are going to do it. When I'm going to do it, well, if I'm going to do it, fine, but I have say in shit. And I don't want to be that guy who runs a tournament and changes rules to benefit me. It's not going to be like that. The Legends Cup before was put together to honor legends of the game. And at one point, I do believe they even started a scholarship. Kind of like how the Carney Johnson scholarship is run now. I know it started getting to that. It was my aunt and uncle who started the Legends Cup tournament. They gave me the trophy. I would love to start that tournament because a lot of people are asking, when are we going to have more tournaments? When are we going to have more tournaments? There used to be the Nations Cup, the Legends Cup, and then there was the Warrior Cup for a while, and now there's only the Dreamcatcher tourney. Nations Cup is where? What happened to that? Did it even play
I
this
don't even
year?
think they did this year. Yeah, last
So-
year came back after hiatus to Onondaga, and then this
Yeah,
year,
and then
nowhere.
there was rumor it was going to be the same weekend as the Lax Night tournament. As a tournament organizer, why would you do that? Does that I'm going to run the tournament when everybody else has gone to that one, so my team can win?
Well, pretty much
That's
because
bullshit.
that was the 2 years ago too. They were going to do it when a bunch of teams were going to Nashville.
Exactly.
And then they
you
didn't
can't-
do it at all, and then they brought it back last year, the Canadian Thanksgiving weekend. So
You can't tell me that wasn't planned on purpose. But that's what I want to do. Will it grow the game? Hell yeah, it'll grow the game because I want international teams to come in. Will there be an entry fee? Yes, there'll be an entry fee, but I'm not going to charge $1,800 US like some of these tournaments do.
and some of them, it's a cash calorie. If that they're traveling around the U.S. running box and fields tournaments at
That's all they
18
do.
plus, they don't give out money like you said. Those other tournaments, right? That used to give out or Dreamcatcher, you get cash prizes at the end. Well, these tournaments they don't. Last
get a
night you're
t-shirt.
not. Yeah, last night you're not getting a cash prize. This thing you're not getting cash prizes, right?
The one, what is it? What is it called? They do exactly what you said. They just run tournaments.
The bear paw.
Yeah,
and
bear
they
paw.
do Nashville, and they do Nashville box, run other box tournaments in Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, then
Ohio,
field
yeah.
kids. They were getting into that sixes. Like the guy's obviously making a lot of money off it.
Yeah, that's what he does. Or this organization does for a living. Basically, is just run tournaments. And if you're going to get 20 teams at $1,800 a pop, that's just your entry fee.
Like it's a lot of money because like even that Nashville, it's not in an arena. It's like in like an outdoor pavilion. Like I'm sure that's not probably, and then that's a cheap state. There's not a lot of tax there, so like I'm assuming he's probably getting good deals when you're renting it for a whole 2 to 3 days, right?
The only thing that pisses me off about going, and I get it, a lot of players use it as a vacation.
Yeah.
I get that. But I'm not going to spend money on a team and take them someplace for them to be out drunk for 3 days.
Screw off, right? Some guys don't come back to play, or
Like if me personally, if I'm able to put up $1,800 for an entry fee, you're damn well playing.
because we were like looking at it, right? It was 18 and change. It was really like 24.50 Canadian,
Yeah,
and that's just to enter. That's not to get there.
yep, that's not your gas. That's not your
hotels.
food. That's not your accommodations. That's not your 1 or 2 or 3 night bender while you're there. That's,
Like it's a lot of money
just
for
entry
2.
fee.
It's a lot of money for 2 days, or like you know what I mean, for teams and that do that, right? Like it's a lot of
Yeah, I mean, and that's like I said, a lot of teams use it as a vacation. Go have fun, by all means. Me personally, I'm not taking a team down there for them to party for 3 days. We're going down there to go in a lacrosse tournament, and that's what we're going to do. If you're going to drink after the game, fine. But if you show up tomorrow drunk, don't, because you're not playing. It's really simple. But that's what I want to do. That's my idea of helping grow the game. Have a tournament, invite these teams from across the continent. Will it bring tourism in? Yes. Will it bring dollars to the community? Yes. Will it expose a lot of people to the actual game and not some hybrid that they play in wherever? Yes. That's my idea on it. And you're right. Tourism needs to get on board. Six Nations Council needs to get on board. They need to do this. Not just for me, not just for Six Nations lacrosse, but on anything that's thrown out there to bring people in to help educate them. Chris didn't end up here from Long Island by accident. And now look, he is one of our go-to guys when we need to know anything about the game.
He's nicknamed the encyclopedia. Like,
Yeah.
I always wondered that. How did you end up here? How did you end up on Six Nations? Like you just said one day I'm going to come here? Or?
This is where the car broke down.
Yeah, pretty much. Told the guy from Aqua once I got stuck on the bush and never left, and he like, see me and get in a rap later. He's like, "Oh, that was funny before." I think I'm still stuck with him.
Just came down here, just
Yeah.
right on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always wondered that. Any last minute shout outs, guys?
No, I'm all good, and we'll see you next episode.
I've had people come up to me when I've seen them outside, wherever. Hey, how do I get on the podcast? I'm going to direct you to Dea. If you want to reach out and want to participate, give Dea a shout.
And then you'll have to talk to our admin. Go to info@beyondpride.com. Just send them an email, and they'll let you know.
See, I threw
Last
that,
minute shout outs.
threw that at you because I knew you'd have that info.
Oh, yeah.
no shout outs, just thanks for having me on, giving me a space to share my thoughts and opinions and everything.
It's good to have
Appreciate
you.
having me.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on the show, and thank you all for listening to the Creators Game Podcast, episode 15.